Well, welcome back. It's been a little while since my last video, but that's just because I've been out taking photos and I'd like to take a bit of a break over Christmas. And I realised taking photos is a bit extreme for a photography themed YouTube channel, but I did it nonetheless. But something I did choose to do was to go and shoot different types of photos, things that I don't shoot as often. I've taken photos of graffiti, for example, which is certainly something a bit different for me, but one of the main things I've been doing is photographing some landscapes, and I thought, why not go big and photograph the tallest peak here in South Wales, which is Pen y Fan in the Bannau Brycheiniog, or Brecon Beacons as they used to be known. And it's not a huge mountain in the grand scheme of mountains I've been up, bigger ones. It's only about 800 meters tall, I think, but the hike up it from the car park I find quite strenuous because it's just that uncomfortable sort of level of incline, and it's pretty much constant all the way. That route is known as the Beacons Way, and it's more affectionately known as the motorway because it's absolutely full of people. But it is this route that goes up here to there. This is very difficult to do looking off, not at the map. And I managed to get up perfectly in time for sunrise on New Year's Day. The sunrise was beautiful, which is why it was equally confusing to see people leaving the mountain before the sun had even come up. I don't understand those sorts of people. And I got some lovely photos that I'm very pleased with. I took these on the Z9 with the 24-70 f4S, and they came out fantastic. I'm very, very happy with these photos. But one thing I wanted to do was to actually photograph Pen y Fan itself. These photos are of the valley, and primarily the triangular mountain is called Cribyn, and it's a smaller one just to the side of Pen y Fan. But I wanted to photograph Pen y Fan, and I couldn't quite make it to Cribyn on that morning. I realised that it would just be a little bit too much, and I don't want to injure myself, particularly my knees, when I'm trying to get back into doing this sort of thing. So I decided to go back later, and that's what I did this past weekend. But I thought, I'll do a different route. I'll do a more gradual incline, and so I chose part of the horseshoe route, because it is a horseshoe valley, and I would walk further, but at a much more gradual incline, which in theory should be a little bit more relaxing and a bit easier on the knees. The only downside is I did do it on one of the coldest days this year so far, and temperature here in the UK is a little bit of an oddity. When people in America in particular see us complaining about it being below zero, it does sound a bit weird when they're experiencing minus 40 degrees Celsius. You know, it's a little bit strange. But the thing is, because the temperature here sits around freezing point and we have very high humidity, you have very wet, humid, but very cold at freezing point air. And so even though it was -2 on this hike, on the tops of the mountains when the wind was up, it was more like -15, and it's a very penetrating cold because it's 30-mile-an-hour winds. And yes, it does sap the temperature from you somewhat. But anyway, I thought I'd get up at 4:30 a.m. I decided to take two different cameras with me. I took the Panasonic S5IIX with the 24-105, and I took my Mamiya 645-1000S with its 80mm lens. And I figured I'd shoot handheld high-res photos on the Panasonic, and I would shoot some nice Kodak Ektar 100 film on the film camera. The route is very different to last time. It's not up the motorway, it's up from Tafechan Forest down here. And as you can see, it goes all the way up to the peak of Cribyn. Where am I? Over here. Supposedly to take an hour and 54 minutes. It did not take an hour and 54 minutes, and I'd already fallen down one icy waterfall before this video continues. Didn't know there were horses up here. might make for a nice photo. Takes a little while to process the high resolution images. I feel like it was faster on the S5 for some reason, but I think it's exactly the same and I'm just imagining things. That's pretty cool. Quite flat light still. Starting to get a bit of orange over on the other ridgeline. There is another valley over this side down here, so I'm kind of curious to see what that's like. As you can see, the sun is now coming up. I'm a little bit behind schedule because the ice slowed me down more than I thought it would, so I was hoping to be at the peak for just as that first sun comes in, but I think it'll still be nice when we get up there. Ice. I do have some ice attachments for my boots with me, but there's no point attaching them for like 5 meters of ice. Might as well just slide over it. Let's see what the view's like over here. That's not bad. That is the route up Bannau Brycheiniog, and I'm probably not pointing quite right, but there is a rock that sticks out from the top called the diving board, and I will not be going on that because it is scary. Gorgeous view over that way. That's as good an angle as I can bother to get on there. It's time to stop the GoPro, which keeps failing, and load some film. I did not bring the lens hood for this, and that was a mistake. Never mind. I was just remarking to somebody about 2 seconds ago that it was a bit warmer, but no, once you get towards the peak, it's absolutely freezing again. Just trying to get a good view down the valley. Oh, I can finally see down the valley again, right? But unfortunately I got here quite late, so I don't think it's going to make the world's most interesting photo. But down there, definitely. Oh, is the stupid GoPro still working or not? Apparently. Right. Well, it's alive. This is a reservoir. It's never going to hear me over this. So this is a reservoir which, someone's shouting, is currently drained. I think it will make a rather nice photo. As you can probably tell, it's gotten very cold as I'm nearing the top, and that's why I've got this on, because my face is freezing. There will be a bit of a lack of clips for a while. The GoPro's memory card keeps failing, which is interesting considering that it's supposed to be a decent one. I think I'm going to do away with all SanDisk memory cards in the near future. Certified not extreme. It's not been a very good year for SanDisk, what with their SSD woes as well, but yeah, I can confirm I'm no longer going to be using any of their memory cards, at least not until they improve things on their part. I've replaced this with an Angelbird card, which is actually rated down to -25. Don't know what this is supposed to be rated to, but I certainly wouldn't call it extreme, and it's now going to be relegated to use in games consoles instead. So I didn't bring a tripod with me because I just assumed that it would get blown over, to be honest. So this is how I'm going to have to continue filming. So I'm almost at the top of Cribyn now, and I'm going to take a couple of photos of Panavan, and then I'm just going to head back down again to get back out of this wind. is quite striking though. If you hear a clanging noise and it sounds like a Swiss cow, it's just my straps hitting my thermos flask. Oh, I think we're at the top. Welcome to the peak of Cribyn. Now I know that it's a very sheer drop, so I'm not actually going to go to the edge. Quick film shot before my hands die. I think everything's still working. So I'd made it to the peak of Cribyn, taken some photos of Panasonic itself, the RAF or Army, I can't quite tell who it was, I think it was the RAF. We're doing some manoeuvres, flying a helicopter down the valley for a bit of a lark. It's absolutely freezing and it gets quite steep here, and I don't really want to walk down this way because I actually want to walk back the way I came, as I think I'm going to get some nice views of Bannau Brycheiniog. Just trying to find a bit of shelter in order to have some food before I walk all the way back down there again. Although, you know, it's a gentle descent the entire way back, so it's not exactly arduous. But I've probably burnt quite a lot of calories in this cold. I don't know how many because my watch has died. crows that fly over here that makes it very interesting. Got 4 more shots on this, I think. I'm forming a dead technology pile over here at the moment in this bit of shelter just because my watch battery died. The GoPro's memory card is apparently failing, and my phone battery is half dead as well. So I'm going to sit and eat some lunch and see if some of them charge back up. Curiously, the most delicate bit of electronics that I've got with me, the S5IIX, is totally fine. I'm on a second battery, but I've been shooting quite a lot of video in ice cold temperature, and it works perfectly. Bit awkward to operate in mittens, I must admit, but you know, can't have everything. I can't even speak, it's so cold. Right, well, I made it back down Cribyn, and now it's just the walk back to the car, which is that way. So yes, as you can tell, I kind of ran out of video footage towards the end of this just because the GoPro had failed and my brain had failed with it, and I just forgot to film more things using the S5IIX. But there wasn't a huge amount left to see. I think the best light was at the very start of sunrise itself, and aside from a couple of other film photos on the way back down, there wasn't anything particularly noteworthy. And a quick summary about the S5IIX on this day out. I was very impressed. It put up with the conditions perfectly. It had the same sort of battery life it normally does even, which is quite impressive considering that my watch and phone died. And overall, loved the experience of shooting with it. The 96 megapixel handheld high-res photos are fantastic for landscapes. It's a really, really nice feature. It's a bit of a sort of a choice of compromises, I suppose, between that and say something like the Nikon Z9, which shoots higher resolution photos by default. You're getting higher resolution photos from the S5IIX, but you can't do things like bracketing at the same time. It takes more time to take the photos because it stitches them together, stuff like that. So it's really sort of a decision to be made about which one you opt for. In the future, I will probably shoot more with the Z9 for these sorts of purposes, but for a different reason than you might expect, and it is primarily down to ergonomics. Nikon have been making cameras a very, very long time, and the ergonomics of their cameras have been refined over decades, over half a century. And I find that current Nikon cameras, which all pretty much have the same control layout and they have very similar ergonomics, are very comfortable, but also very practical cameras to use. Panasonic, on the other hand, is quite new to this, and I love using the S5IIX. I think it's a comfortable camera, but there are certain aspects to it which make it irritating when used in mittens. And I think I've mentioned this in a video from last year or something, but I shoot quite a lot in mittens. I get cold hands. Presumably quite a lot of people shoot in cold weather around the world as well. And the ergonomics of the S5IIX fall down a little bit there. Not just in that it's hard to fit a thicker glove between the grip and the camera body, that's true of quite a lot of cameras, but the diopter adjustment, for example, does not lock. And if the camera rubs against your coat, you've got a thicker coat on, it can turn the diopter wheel. But if you've got cold fingers, It's very hard to adjust it back to the correct spot. It's quite an odd little irritation, but it did affect me on this day, and I spent half the day shooting through a blurry viewfinder. Now, perhaps more irritating on the day was something that took me a little while to figure out. On the S5 II, I have C1 set to my main video settings, and I have M for my photos. I just shoot in the normal modes. Between those two, on the mode dial, are S and Q, the slow and quick video mode, and the manual video mode. The problem here comes in to the rear control dial on the S5 II, which has cropped up in a lot of reviews. Lots of people have mentioned that this dial is very easy to hit. The solution to this is to set a function button, or the function button, because there's effectively only one on the front of the camera, to be operation lock. Brilliant, I have that set in my custom mode. And I hit that, and then the control dial will no longer change my shutter angle or shutter speed, you know, that sort of thing. Very sensible. But the problem is, unless you also set that function button and then lock it in each of the S and Q modes and the manual video mode, as you toggle between C1 and M, you pass through those modes, and if you're wearing gloves, you may hit that control dial and you will change your shutter angle or shutter speed. And when you go back into your custom video mode, it will be set to the wrong thing, but it will still be locked. It's quite annoying. And I took quite a few clips at the wrong shutter angle, which isn't the end of the world, but it's just a bit unnecessary. You know, it's one of those things that shouldn't really be possible to do. The Nikon solves this by not having a mode dial. You change your shooting profiles, or you've got a toggle switch to swap between photo and video profiles, which works generally better. So it's not critical, and it's not something that ruins the S5 II for me, but it is something I noticed that when shooting in colder weather, I do prefer the ergonomics of the Nikon camera. And if I'm going landscape photographing in the future and I'm doing it wearing thick gloves, I'm going to take the Z9 and not the S5 II. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the photos I got from this trip. Not quite as exciting, I think, as the first one. I think the sunrise photos of Cribyn came out really, really good. But I am excited to go back up and try it again, and actually try and get some better photos of Panasonic again next time, because I feel like the other photos from this trip were good, but the ones of Panasonic were lacking. It was very high contrast light by that point, and it doesn't really have the sort of subtlety and colour that I was looking for, both on film and digital. They came out very similarly, and I'm not particularly happy with either of them. But I am pleased with the photos of Bannau Brycheiniog and the ones on the way, and it was worth it as an experience all the same. If you have any comments or any thoughts, please do put them down in the comments below. But thank you very much. I'll see you next time.